Okay, Avengers Age of Ultron is an interesting one. I have quite a bit to say. I've actually made a list of different points I want to talk about, so this may be a bit longer than normal, but it's going to be a bit more coherent than the previous reviews. And I got quite a bit to say. First off, when I went to go see it opening night, which, yes, I was on the train of consistently going opening night now, I was originally supposed to go to a double feature of the first Avengers and then Age of Ultron, which would have been incredible to see in the theaters. There was like 3 other theaters doing a full MCU marathon, which it lasted like 24 hours or 27 hours, and that's crazy and awesome. I would have loved to have done that, but I was nowhere in the vicinity of that particular thing happening, and so I settled on the double feature, which was mainly a wide release. But it unfortunately sold out, and I wasn't into buying online tickets yet, which I do now, of course, to always ensure I get the best seat. But I would always just go opening night like a couple hours early and buy my seats in advance, because that's what everybody would do. But it sold out too fast, so I was out of my luck. However, I did go to the normal 7 o'clock IMAX 3D showing premiere of Avengers Age of Ultron, and I thoroughly enjoyed it back then. And then over time, I gained a bunch of criticism, and I got consumed by that, and Age of Ultron just wasn't really the best to me. But rewatching it, I can say, honestly, it's a great time. It really is such a fun time. And all the criticisms, while they're still there, it doesn't really bug me. It doesn't really bug me anymore. Some things, but nothing too major, and I've made quite a bit of a list here, so I'm going to go over some things, and luckily I won't run out of trailer footage, because they pretty much, Marvel did a really bad thing where they pretty much released the entire film online, so it was kind of like an Amazing Spider-Man 2 type situation. Like TVs, there was like 40, 50 TV spots that came out before and after the film, and geez, that was just way too much. They way oversold Age of Ultron. Of course, not everybody sees all of them, but I was an idiot and watched every single one, which, my bad, but which I do want to talk about. First off, the trailers. The trailers, not only the trailers, but the main menu of this DVD plays sinister music, and the trailers had such a sinister tone. You thought this was going to be an extremely dark, captivating film, and Ultron was going to be a major threat. And yeah, he is a major threat in the film, but it is shocking, because they sold you a scary villain, which I was all for. I was super excited. And then it's mostly a comedic, fun adventure, which is fine, but don't sell me a sinister tone. I want the creepy atmosphere to keep going. I was excited for that, but unfortunately, we didn't get that. I would love to see a different cut of the film where it actually does keep the sinister tones. It would just be awesome. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that will happen. And there was a line in the trailer where Ultron says, "The only thing living in this world will be me," which I thought was way better than him saying the only thing living in this world will be metal, which was changed for the final film. Just metal didn't sound as captivating, and it went more into that sinister tone of, like, everything living in this world will be me, which it literally would be, because he controls all the Ultron bots. And I just love that way more. Metal doesn't sound as cool as me. So that's my little gripe there. The continuous shot in the opening, back when I saw it in theaters and to this day, put a smile on my face. I'm a sucker for continuous shots, and I could not stop smiling. And actually, this was the first MCU film, or no, Guardians of the Galaxy was the first MCU film where I saw it in theaters twice, and I did see Age of Ultron in theaters twice, and it was a great time, honestly, both times. I will say, in the first 8 minutes, they quip so often. Like, there were like 9 or 10 quips, and it just wouldn't stop. Like, they're funny, but you've done it way too much when there's that many. Not even 10 minutes have gone by. It did, fortunately, die down after that, and it wasn't as consistent, or like as much, I mean. So that's good, but it was way too much. That's just that's one of my gripes. I will go off into more positives. First, I'm gonna go into the music. The music was done by Brian Tyler and Danny Elfman, which I do prefer older Danny Elfman work to new Danny Elfman work, but he does a pretty good job. I thought he did pretty fine in Justice League, fine enough, and here you don't really get the original Avengers theme. Like, it's there, but they added to it, which you did not need to do. But here's the thing, it's like, it doesn't make it worse, but it doesn't make it better. It just is. It's nothing special, but it's not awful. You know what I mean? That's just where I stand with the music. I will say, what especially was a surprise was the dialogue is honestly really great. I think when the team plays off each other, all the dialogue, even like the exposition, I think it all came across beautifully, especially when when Tony and Bruce are talking about the Ultron program before Ultron comes into play. I thought that dialogue exchange was beautifully executed. It was amazing. Of course, everybody already has great chemistry established from the first Avengers, and it just continues on, and it just turned into something really great. The dialogue, I was just very happy of how well it flowed. It was great. Okay, now we're going to talk about Ultron, which my main gripe is he upgraded way too fast. When we first saw him, it's like, okay, so there's going, like, how he is in the broken Iron Man Legion suit. It's like, okay, well, there's, like, the phase 1 of Ultron. Okay, so he's going to go through things. When we saw the first tease of the Ultron bot, which we thought it was just actually Ultron, we thought it was going to be, like, his second phase, but, like, immediately after that scene, he's already, like, his second to last final form, which sucks so much. I wanted to see the progression of him. I didn't want it to be, like, right away. It's just, it bothers me still to this day. I didn't like it. He upgraded way too fast, and his final form is not as cool as the one before it. I'm sorry, it just isn't. It's alright, but it's just too, I don't want to say puffy. I'm just obviously quoting Tony Stark on that, but, you know, it was puffy. It was very puffy. It was weird. Also, you get the introduction to Ulysses Claw, which he played a major villain, kind of a major villain in Black Panther, which is great to see. And here he's actually, like, way more serious than he is in Black Panther, which I do prefer. Even though I do prefer Black Panther over this film, I would have liked to see Claw more serious than he was in Black Panther, which you do get here, and I thought he was really cool. You know, I love Andy Serkis. I just wish, you know, he could have been a bit more serious in Black Panther. But that's for Black Panther for us to get to in the future. We're talking here at Age of Ultron. I thought he was great. It was a small little cameo, and it was nice. It got the plot rolling of how Ultron's going to take the vibranium and make it into his final form. So that was really cool to see. Also, there was really cool foreshadowing of Thor's power that he gets in Ragnarok. Quick spoilers for Ragnarok if you haven't seen it, because it is just now coming out on home release as of right now. There's the scene where Scarlet Witch infects Thor's mind in Age of Ultron, and, you know, you're basically seeing the original pitch for Thor Ragnarok, where it was going to be super serious in the end of the world, before we got the comedy roadshow, which I enjoyed, but yeah, it's apparent, like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing at the time. They weren't sure where they were going to take the direction. But it's really cool how you get to see Thor, like, surging with electricity and shooting it off. Like, it was really cool. That's honestly pretty awesome foreshadowing that I really didn't even think about until after I've seen Thor Ragnarok and came back to this. So it was really cool. Also, this film obviously sets up, you know, plenty of good jokes for Thor Ragnarok to use, which was awesome. So there's that. And of course, the Hulkbuster fight was incredible. I mean, everything about that was just a beautiful set piece. It's still great. My favorite part is when Tony slings the elevator over Hulk's head and then just comes in for a punch and knocks out his tooth and then gets scared. That's my favorite part of the whole fight, and it's such a good fight the whole time. And I know this film is very effects heavy. I think the effects are still really good. They're hold up for sure. It was a really fun fight. I loved it. And honestly, I don't care what you all say, whether you're with it or against it. I love the farm scenes in this film with Hawkeye and his family. It didn't feel slow to me whatsoever. I honestly really enjoyed it. I don't understand why people didn't. Like, I guess, you know, they thought it was, like, slow-paced and unneeded. But I thought it brought more to the character of Hawkeye, which, shouldn't we want that? I think we should, and I thought they did it in a very nice way. I cared about Hawkeye more. The fact that he has a wife and children is great. I loved it, man. I thought it was great. Also, it was a great place for the Avengers to decompress, you know, collect their thoughts. It was awesome. And I think the strongest thing in the film is Tony's arc through it, where he has such a fear of the world ending and the Avengers dying. and the fact that he's really the one that kicked off this threat to begin with. Really, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe is just really the strongest character arc of all of it has been Tony Stark, and after that, Captain America. But I gotta say, wow, like Tony's arc throughout the whole MCU is really great, and just him coming to grips like the world's going to end and it's going to be my fault if I don't do something. I think that's very compelling. It's one of my favorite points in all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's how we get to Civil War and eventually Infinity War. It's great. I love it. I love that they keep doing it. Just the story of Tony Stark is fantastic. I am completely satisfied. It's so good. An unfortunate thing with the film is this is the last time we see Jarvis in action, which they do explain that they recoded Jarvis's matrix and uploaded it into Vision. So technically, Jarvis does become Vision, or at least they use Jarvis as a template to make something new. So you kind of still do get Jarvis, just not traditionally like he was. He's now his own being known as the Vision. It does suck that we don't get Jarvis anymore. I mean, I loved him. I like Friday. I like Friday just fine. But obviously we built such a connection with Jarvis. He was just always that cool supercomputer that everybody wants to have. And it sucks that we don't get him anymore, but honestly, I think it's fine, especially since we get Vision, so let's go and talk about him. The birth of Vision is a beautiful scene. Originally, there was a fight scene between Vision and Thor supposed to happen there, which I was upset was cut, but in hindsight, especially now, I'm glad it was cut. I prefer to let the scene play out as it does, because it's such a beautiful scene. It's kind of emotional, like it's the birth of a being, and you get the introduction to him, and he's just so calm and collective. You know, he just says, "I am," which there's a lot of biblical stuff in Age of Ultron, actually, but aside from that, Vision is super cool, and on top of that, he gets to lift Thor's hammer, which is just so cool. One of the best moments in the entire MCU. It's awesome, man. It was just, and Thor was instantly on board, like, okay, yeah, he's good, we're good. Like, he's on our side, which was awesome. So, that was great. Continuing with the new characters, we got Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I want to go ahead and touch on Quicksilver real quick, because while he wasn't, like, a big part of the film, per se, like, he wasn't a big standout, I did enjoy his character. I do like Aaron Taylor Johnson. He is often, like, brought up a lot when people see a similar look to his character in Age of Ultron. Like, when you see other films, like, oh, he looks like Aaron Taylor Johnson, you know, the Quicksilver version. So, like, people, like, that sticks in people's memory, his look. And I feel like you can add more with him, and especially, I think the MCU can do well with a speedster on its hands. And granted, we could get a newer Quicksilver, like an X-Men mutant Quicksilver, and odds are they will do that for a replacement, but I honestly want I honestly want Aaron Taylor Johnson to come back. I enjoy his acting. I thought he was great as Quicksilver, and I would love to see him back. And then we got Scarlet Witch, who has become a very big part of the MCU now, especially after Civil War. And here's an interesting part where Ultron says to Quicksilver, "You and I can hurt them," and then he turns to Wanda and says, "But you will tear them apart from the inside," which is actually an indication to Civil War, which I thought was really clever. And she's just become such a beloved character. If you ever heard of Torchwood Boy, you know, he's a reactor, big cool guy. He loves Wanda Maximoff, and I completely understand. I am on board. She is fantastic. I love her character. She's really come into her own, just with two film appearances, and she's become such a beloved character. I love it. I love her power set. She is extremely powerful, probably one of the most powerful beings in all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you especially see that when she obliterates, like, 15 Ultron bots at once inside the church when Quicksilver dies. It's so cool. She's so cool. It's awesome. Also, what was really awesome was at the end when the final battle begins, War Machine shows up and he starts fighting, and it's awesome. It's just really cool to see Rhodey fight with the Avengers, like, as a team. It was really cool to see. Granted, he was mainly working with S.H.I.E.L.D. to get the civilians on board and get them away, which I thought was also really cool. The fact that the helicarrier made a return, it was great. Nick Fury was great in the movie. It was an awesome time. I think what would have made it even better is if Falcon joined in at the end. Unfortunately, he only pops up at the beginning and the end, very briefly, but I think that's the only thing I would improve with the final battle, because I thought it was really great, is if Falcon was there to help as well. I think that would have been awesome. But we're going to see him in action in Infinity War, so fingers crossed they deliver. And one of the best shots, probably my favorite shot in all of Age of Ultron, is when Vision, Thor, and Iron Man are all shooting their power beams at Ultron and melting him. That is just such an iconic shot from the MCU. It is beautiful, so good. So now, you may have noticed, this review turned into a praise type of review, because yeah, I did kind of knock out all of my gripes, because honestly, going through the film, I am surprised. There was a lot of awesome stuff that came in, and I'm gonna go and wrap it up with that. You come to the end where everybody's going their separate ways. Thor's gonna go figure out what's up with all these Infinity Stones. Turns out it's gonna be a comedy roadshow. Hulk gets off into space. He'll end up in Ragnarok as well. And Tony goes off to, who knows, just to be Tony. Obviously he's going to come back in Civil War, and that's all going to tie together. But Captain America and Black Widow, they are going to be training the new set of Avengers, which include War Machine, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Vision, which is awesome. And right before the credits end, Cap says Avengers, and right before he says Assemble, it cuts off. So he better say Avengers Assemble in Infinity War. If he doesn't, there will be a riot, I assure you, and I will join that riot, because we need it to happen. And with that said, we're going to touch on the only end credits scene. Yeah, they only did one instead of two, which they're now used to doing two, but just the one. And it is a serious one, which I appreciate. I remember back in the theater when I saw it, I had already heard Joss Whedon report. There's only one. There's nothing at the very, very end. But just in case, I did stick around to watch the very end of the credits, and sure enough, nothing popped up except the Avengers will return, which I do always love to see. And granted, I'm not sitting through the entire credits when I'm rewatching at home, but I will skip to the end to see the Avengers will return, because it is awesome to see those little tidbits at the very end of the credits, even though I already know it shows up. But we do get the Mad Titan himself, Thanos, as our end credit scene, and when I was sitting in the theater, just a little doorway was opening up, and you see something rise, and before you can make out what it was, I honestly thought it was Ultron's head. I thought he wasn't done. I thought he was going to make a return somehow in the future, and I thought that would have been really cool. Ultron's head for a future Age of Ultron, a more apocalyptic one, I think would be awesome. But nope, it was the Infinity Gauntlet, which was cool to see. Thanos comes in, says fine, I'll do it myself, which is pretty cool, and then cut to black. So nothing too much. It's pretty much what you already knew was going to happen, but it's another brief little thing of Thanos, which is nice to tie us over until we get to our next entry, which is Ant-Man, which will be interesting because since the Infinity War challenge is shifted, because Avengers Infinity War is moving up a week early to April 27th, I do have to do 2 films a week. So this next coming week, you're getting 2 reviews at the same time. You're going to get Ant-Man and Captain America Civil War, both on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you come back for that, guys. That being said, if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button, subscribe if not already, tell me what you thought of Age of Ultron, and any of the other MCU reviews, you can check them out in the playlist. That being said, guys, hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you, always.